Now, Jessie Ware is well known as a singer and songwriter, but she also has a very successful podcast with her mum, Lennie. It's called Table Manners, and they cook a Friday night dinner with a guest who they chat to. Famous people have done it, the likes of Sam Smith and Ed Sheeran, Paloma Faith, Joe Brand. It's become so popular that the duo have now published their own cookery book. And here they are talking to Jenny.
Jessie, what prompted the idea of a podcast of Friday night dinner with your mother?
I think I was always so interested in other people's stories, and I was sick of talking about myself. Being in music, it's so self-involved and all-consuming about you. So I wanted to have conversations with other people, and I thought the best way of kind of having a conversation and it not feeling like an interview was having my mum, who is the best host I know, the best cook I know, cooking for these guests and us sitting around the table and having a chat, which felt very informal and light and talking about family and nostalgia and food memories. And I don't know what happened, but everyone seems to quite like it. And Mum is the absolute star of the show.
Lennie, what was your response to the idea? Because it sounds to me as if it was assumed that you would be the cook.
It was. I was supposed to be in the background. I didn't know what a podcast was. I thought I was just cooking for Jessie to chat to friends. And I thought this would help her improve her interviewing process. And it just took on from there because I couldn't resist joining in with the conversation.
You never have been able to resist joining in with the conversation,
no.
I suspect.
I think that's right.
It does sound, though, Jessie, as if it's not always an easy ride. Mother, daughter, one kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, Mum showed me tough love in the kitchen. She wasn't one of those ones that, here's your pinny, let's go and let's bake. It was, you're doing it wrong, and I learned that way. But actually, I'm a pretty good cook from it, so thank you, Mother. But yeah, we're living together at the moment, which has been testing, but we're nearly out the end of it, and we've managed to make a podcast together and write a cookbook in that time. So and we're not killing each other. So it's all right.
I mean, there have been a couple of disastrous moments. The blowtorch moment when we were
creme brulee with Hayley Squires.
Yeah.
What happened with the creme brulee?
Well, Jessie was using it too fiercely, I thought.
Mum
So I said, I'll take over. And the whole blowtorch fell apart and set me on fire. Literally, I went up in flames.
She was okay though. We never used the blowtorch again. It's okay.
We never used it again. It came apart, and Hayley Squires just couldn't believe her eyes. She was just us two arguing, and then me going on fire.
What other disasters have you had?
Short ribs. George Ezra. They weren't short ribs. They were very long, and I marinated them for too long in wine, and they were tough as old boots. So we had to get a Turkish takeaway, and it worked out all right. But we laughed so much. We laugh a lot, and I think even in these kind of catastrophic moments, we end up laughing, and that's just been how we've always worked, really.
How often have people asked you for the recipes? Because, I mean, now there's a book with all the recipes in it. Have people been saying, oh, that lovely thing?
Almost all the time, which is why we were approached to do a cookbook. So people kept on saying, gosh, that sounds delicious. Can I have the recipe? And in the end, we just thought we'll put them all together. And we've produced a cookbook, which I have to say is so easy. It's about easy cooking and just enjoying a lovely social time over a meal.
But how easy was it for you to write down recipes for food that you have been cooking for years?
That was tricky because it's all in your head and you do it by instinct. So actually writing the recipes down was tricky. So they were tested.
Tested again.
To make sure that they worked. And they weren't just things that we could make work. So everyone's going to be able to make my chicken soup with matzo balls, I hope.
But wasn't there a recipe that you'd done and they couldn't make it work because you'd forgotten the eggs?
Yeah, the key lime pie. I had done it, and in fact we made it for Cheryl.
Cheryl, yes, we did.
Cheryl, well, she's called just Cheryl now, Cole.
As Mum is called Lennie now.
Yeah, Cheryl. And no one could make it work. So I said, well, I'm going to do it and I'll make it work. And I couldn't make it work. And then I realised I'd forgotten the eggs.
Quite simple.
Yeah. It's rectified
They're in
now.
there, don't worry. Yeah. The eggs are in there.
What were your Friday night dinners like as you grew up?
fun. I mean, they weren't kind of, as you would imagine a Jewish household, you know, we lit the candles and then the rest kind of, it was Whitney Houston and dancing around the table. And it wasn't necessarily a full Jewish meal, but there was always the ask of chicken soup, wasn't there, and chopped liver. But we'd have all my friends from school who, you know, I grew up in South London, there weren't that many Jewish people there. So they'd come over with their parents and we'd have these lovely long dinners together that would end up with singing and dancing at the end.
You admit in the book to being a food lover.
Yeah.
And your mother says your toes used to curl in your high chair
Yes.
as the food was on its way. What do you love most of your mother's cooking?
She's the best with flavour. Chicken soup she'll taxi over to me when I'm ill, when I'd be losing my voice in a singing.
Well, it's the Jewish.
It's Jewish, Jewish penicillin, absolutely. But she's so good with flavour and just everything. I don't know. You've always been so brilliant. And also my children. We're living together, and my children won't eat my food, but they'll always eat my mum's food. And I'm like, hold on, she's just done a roast the same as I. But there's something about my mum's cooking that.
I
is
think
the
there's
best.
always something about your mum's cooking.
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
always the best.
As a single mother for much of the time, with a job as a social worker, how did you manage day after day after day to fit in good home cooking for the kids?
It's so important to me, eating together. That was really important, that everyone sat down together at the end of the day and talked about their day, and we ate together. So I plan. It's just good planning, really. I would cook in the morning something for the evening and know it was ready there, and we could just warm it up and we'd eat together.
You'd come back from school and there would be the smell of food because she'd already have it ready.
It was ready.
Yeah.
So I think if you plan, it's easy. I think doing the podcast now, we're kind of planning all the time what we're going to cook for people.
But planning together, I mean, it's not entirely your responsibility now, is it?
No, we do it together.
Absolutely.
How surprised, Lennie, have you been at the success of the podcast?
Beyond my wildest dreams, really. I can't really measure the success, except that if I'm at the Tube and I say, oh God, the bloody Northern Line, someone says, are you Lennie from the podcast? I say, how do you know? Jessie says it's my whinging voice. But people recognise me on planes if I'm chatting. They'll say, are you Lennie from the podcast? It's so weird. So I know it must have a wide audience that people recognise my voice. It's very odd.
But how stressful is that then, to suddenly become famous after all these years and to be cooking for all her famous friends?
It's very strange. I mean, it's you know, when it's someone like the wonderful Nigella Lawson, I mean, I think we planned for about 6 months if she ever came on what we cook. But meeting these wonderful people is just great. It's marvellous.
How much do you still enjoy cooking?
Let's say I'm not giving I used to give lots of dinner parties. That was my I love it, but I don't give as many dinner parties. That's true. I tend to go out to eat and rather than cook.
Do you enjoy the cooking when you have to do it?
I do. I enjoy being good at it. That's what I enjoy. Sometimes I get tired and my back hurts a bit if I've been at it all day, and then I
She complains a lot, but actually still delivers the best food ever.
I hope so.
So imagine what it would be if it was cooked with love. I mean, just imagine.
So it's not cooked with love at the moment.
It's pinches of love always go in my food.
Lennie and Jessie Ware, and you might be interested in our video with them. It's on the Woman's Hour website and on our Instagram. That's at BBC Woman's Hour. Find out why Jessie still thinks she needs to do as she's told when she's working with her mom. Quite right too. Last Sunday